we don't see much good or to like about your character, who's just known as Deputy in the credits. He's really ruthless, and you don't have a ton of visible backstory or much humanity on screen. So, how do you approach that as an actor? I was really curious.
Uh, all my experiences with most law enforcement lead me to play deputy, and I got to be a vampire, so there's no humanity there. Just seeing, especially most recently, the political climate we're in the United States, seeing how police move and act. Is it justified? Is it overreaching? I think this movie asks a lot of those questions and explores those things. So I think it was rather easy to jump into that role.
Yeah, this film pulls no punches, which I really enjoyed about it. And there's a scene in this film where you're fighting YG, Flying Lotus, and Freddie Gibbs. Those
Yeah.
are incredible artists. How surreal was that set experience where you're doing choreography with these incredible artists?
It was very surreal, and also wildly uncomfortable being a white Irish Caucasian man, and there are just N bombs flying around left and right, and I was just like, ah, jeez, come on, guys, take it easy. But yeah, just a funny, awkward, like weird moment, but when that red light's on and I'm the vampire coming to get him, like phew, it's pretty badass. And there's a good Fang reveal in that scene. I'm getting shot, I'm getting stabbed, and I just keep coming. A true, real treat for a horror movie fan to get to play that unstoppable killer. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's an awesome scene as well. And it was really cool seeing you get to work with Justin Long, who I'm a huge fan of. What stood out about him as a scene partner? Because we get to see him go to some places in this film that you definitely don't usually get to see from him.
Man, I don't know. I think I was really blown away because you don't know how people are going to approach this stuff. And Justin Long is somebody who has been in crazy huge movies. I mean, this guy starred in a Die Hard movie with Bruce Willis. And there's almost a thought that, okay, he's not going to take this seriously, or this is just a small thing that he's doing. He's going to be in and out, like it's quick. He jumped into this with both feet, and I was blown away at. I guess shame on me for maybe assuming that he was going to think he was bigger than this role, but man, he absolutely destroys it in this movie, and I shouldn't have been surprised. He was just, to me, him and Dermot Mulroney, there's a scene where I do with them that I think they just do an acting tour de force that you would think with whatever description you hear of Night Patrol. Oh, it's a vampire movie. There's cops. Okay, it's quasi low budget, like like, but no, these guys do an acting tour de force, and you're right. Like he did some scenes in this that were like gut wrenching, and I watched him just dive in, and I learned a lot just from watching him. It is amazing to watch him work.
I'm glad you mentioned Dermot because he has such a stage presence in this. It's remarkable, and he makes so much out of just a few minutes of screen time, and he's so on. How
Yeah.
is it getting to watch him work? Because he is magnetic.
I mean, tremendous. Yeah. And I think he was popping in and out while shooting Chicago Fire, I think he was on. So I was just like, hey, how's Chicago? I miss it so much. you know. And he showed up on set ready to rock and roll too. It's just like, whatever illusions anybody has, I'm sure people assume things about me too when I show up to do stuff. But man, both those guys couldn't have been any better. Like, just really crushed it, and I'm just kind of starstruck. Here's these bona fide movie stars, and then there's little old me that gets to tag along. But I'm glad they let me play with them. It was fun.
Yeah, and there's some wild twists in this film. What was kind of just your reaction when you were reading the script and you saw that there were layers upon layers to this movie, and the surprises just keep coming?
Yeah, it starts off and it could be a completely different movie, but within like 10, 15 minutes, you're just like, okay, where's this going? And it doesn't stop. It's like a runaway freight train. I read the script and it was one of those where I read it and I was just like, okay, we can't make this movie, can we? Who's like what year is this? This is a little too on the nose. But I think it's important to talk about what is going on in the real world through art, and this team who wrote, directed, and produced, and the every single actor who's a part of this really, really brought it. And I'm interested to see what the reception is going to be.
Yeah, it's always great to see art that has a vision to it, and this definitely has a vision. I did have one spoiler question I wanted to ask. We see a decapitated version of your head later on. Did you get to see that prop? If so, how weird was that? Because that was so awesome.
Yeah, that prop specifically came from like a digital scan of my head, and I can barely use my own iPhone. So for them, they were like, I was like, oh, I'm going to be put in a machine to scan it, and they're like, nope, just stand still. And somebody used an iPhone and an app, and they like walked around my head, and I was just like, okay, I didn't know we could do that. Like, almost had this thought that it wasn't gonna look good. And then sure enough, when they made that thing, it looked good.
Yeah, it's really cool. And my last question for you, just a small wrestling question. I loved when you removed your shirt at the house show to reveal another shirt. I thought that was such a funny gag after Kevin Nash's comments. How have you learned to just like move in stride and poke fun rather than like getting dragged down by them? Because I thought that was just a perfect way to address it.
Yeah, you know what? I can say it had nothing to do with him, but it obviously the genesis of the story was him saying that I wrestled in a shirt, and I never wrestle in a shirt, so I didn't really understand what the criticism was. But thanks. You're right. I did that to make people I was in the ring with laugh, because when I'm on a house show, to me, that's what it's about. It's about having fun. If the fans see us having fun, they're having fun. I like to keep it light. I like to make people laugh when I'm on the road, and I'm away from my wife and people are away from their families. That's our family when we're on the road, and I'm kind of like the jokey guy. I'm gonna have fun on a house show.
I love it. I love it. I that cracked me up. Congrats on Night Patrol, and the film really turned out great. So congrats to you.